Hi. Welcome back to Berg Mountain Optional University and our Wednesday's Art History course 1792, where more than anything, in readers we hope to heighten the current minimum level of aesthetic professionalism, whereby distinguishing those loyal into two classes or mindsets of people, those noble closer in line to the throne than others, and others from a wilderness filled with those humane and others savage. As instinct is but man's use of common sense, logic, not all men use but unicorns, if existing outside imagination is not only logical but also humane being seen embodied in Earl as second in line to lead. Won't you come along with us? First distinction. Birth, Humanitarian Existentialism. Revelations 19:11, And I saw heaven opened, and behold a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. The white horse was taxonomically Equus, ferus, caballus, while the last black unicorns are Equus, ferus, feral, distinguished in that never before had they been domesticated. In their majesty, unbroken, they are not only wild but also humane beings, moving not instinctively, but logically on par with mankind. Domesticated, as are most men civilized, a unicorn in captivity transforms to a horse having lost orientation, direction, and motivation with their herd and subject to the will of man. Born Equus, ferus, caballus as opposed to Equus, ferus, feral, horns may no longer grow, and like offspring of slaves, nobility is but a dream. With mankind all men are created equal, having an innate sense of sovereignty, where relative to nuclear families all Henrys could be kings, distinguished in time from space, but if feral they'd be actually. We consider horses animals and bees insects because we figure they are motivated by instinct, but the last black unicorns in their majesty are humane beings in that they are driven by logic. Logic implies communication, agreement, and cooperation, where, surely, as beehives are eusocial and dolphins in pods have strong personalities, unicorns, as we'll come to see, share in the humane. No, horses don't communicate with others unless running wild, but the existential position is that being feral and humane, unicorns not only have names and ranks but gave them to themselves. Being born, humane beings are captains of their fate, where humanitarian order is maintained in unicorns by earls, but second in command to English thrones the unicorn king is dePherd.
Being born, humane beings are captains of their fate and masters of their souls, in which is the claim that the last black unicorns are. Why? Well, because just because most have never seen a unicorn doesn't mean that they don't exist. There are yet still places in America where horses run wild, namely, North Carolina's Outer Banks, east of Reno, Nevada, Assateague Island of Virginia and Maryland, in the Pryor Mountains in Wyoming and Montana, in North Dakota's Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and Nova Scotia's Sable Islands. However, for all intents and purposes, it may be better to focus on those Scottish, wherefrom its national animal, the unicorn, distinguishes our study here. There are 3 breeds of native ponies in Scotland. Romans introduced horses to Scotland in the 1st century AD, and many consider those now as escaped from captivity, now feral. There are Shetland ponies bred from Jack of Noss roaming on the Isle north of mainland Scotland, feral. The Highland pony, Scotland's mountain and moorland breed, live in the Highlands. And native ponies run wild on Eriscay Island as the last remnant of its native horses. As wild as Will Ferrell in The Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, 2004, or any of his other films, his name certainly fits his character, and unicorns too. Just as if one didn't know German, they wouldn't know what a Ferd was. How could one know an einhorn was what Germans call a unicorn? Chained to the crown, we are also limited by the English language, where once the word unicorn didn't exist and able to catch but one captures knew it had been conceived, was nurtured, and there were others more illustrious.
The unicorn was chained, however, proving civil it awaits a court which should justify him as humanitarian and of another government in the wilderness, but not of it. Wild animals scratch, bite, kick, fight and fuss to get back to the wild as if family awaits them. Waiting chained, the unicorn stood as if reinforcements weren't far and humane. He was sent to Parliament as a representative of its kind. Why? Well, because no one could train themselves with demeanor as such. As the first words when captured in foreign lands is the statement, "Take me to your leader," his august behavior the English king would compare to lion's strength. As it only takes one to see another, where whatever looks back, if not attacking, is alive, and humane animals using instinct never even consider man unless in their path. Humane being recognize each other, but we are speaking English and there is no way the staring match would be recorded as a win for the unicorn, but second place isn't that bad. Curiosity or imagination led the king to ask from whence it came, geographically, logically and biologically. Surely, from northern parts yet surveyed by Englishmen, unicorns come geographically, and logically humane beings don't discriminate as common men may with color, language, or ethnicity today. Some animals are motivated by instinct and others logic, where not all men use logic more than instinct, and as the king unchained the unicorn, it didn't run but stood as if England was his. Biologically, the king knew it had at least 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and, if each great-grandparent had great-grandparents, at least 64, once roamed the island. Yes, it was a masculine unicorn, and had a mare and foal, colt, file, both or many more, because humane unicorns are as well monogamous. Horses roam, but unicorns have clandestine places where foals are born, nags and crowbait graze and rest, while stallions to war point horns in defense joisting vanguards, perpetually, as war never ends.
Second in command to English thrones earls are deferred. Nowadays, college loans unpaid are deferred until later dates when former students stop running, settle down and can pay them, but it's a pun as they really mean deferred, of horse. Ferd is the German word for horse, whereas stallions seldom settle, neither do students fresh out of college as fast. They are hard to catch up with because they are riding a generational wave which is inferred that those young wish only to run as from horses, deferred. The Earl, now chained, isn't the king of unicorns, but elected as in Scottish tradition from David, king of Israel, through Tanny Stray and clandestine. Unicorn horns are like swords always drawn, and second, the first must be protected.
We record live births with certificates while unicorns do with horns, where proof of being humane is an Earl, Senate as representative to Parliament. In English heraldry, Scottish unicorns come second with students' loans deferred. Proof they don't exist, can't be because you hadn't seen one.
That concludes the information prepared for you today in this session on unicorns or any other humane being where just being born men share in the brotherhood of humanity. Embodied in unicorns, the claim is that, logical, Equus, ferus, feral too have a share in what we call humane. Similar to drones of queen bees' hives, strategery of unicorns either proved victorious in defense against lion's strength, or they used an earl to represent all and still roam Scottish highlands actually, or embodied in men throughout the world. Next session we cover unicorns' birthrights from biological heredity in our second distinction. We can't wait to see you there, then. Thank you for your time and consideration.